Bum bum ba dun dun da da la da la da 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 da. We'll be getting started soon. As soon as folks join me. Bum ba da 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 la da 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 la da la da 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 la da 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 da. Hi, Tammy. La 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 da 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 da. Hi, Amy. Hi, Joanne. Da dun da dun dun dun. I'm singing this little song. I'll tell you about this little song. It's the sweetest thing. Hi, Holly and Jamie and Joanne. Hello, folks from Connecticut and Tennessee and Los Angeles and Michigan and Oregon and South Florida. Hi, South Florida. Probably near me somewhere. Lancaster, PA. Love Lancaster. Very pretty area. Raleigh. Nice. Very nice. Nice to see everyone. So I'm singing this little song. Dun, 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 la da la da 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 da. You know, it's such a common melody, right? We think we know it, but when my husband and I bought this house that we just moved into in South Florida, there was a washer and dryer already on the premise, and they were good quality and they were in good shape. And when the washer is finished, it hums this song. And I said, what is that melody? I know it. I think it's Haydn or Schubert or something. So I looked it up, and it's Schubert. And the title of the song is The Trout. And it's such a great little, check it out. It's really fun to listen to the music and then hear the story about the trout in a bright stream, a moody trout. I've got the lyrics here. Like an arrow, I stood there at the bank and watched in blissful calm the frisky fishes bath in this clear stream. And then, of course, in the end, I won't tell you what happens in the end, but you can pretty much guess what happened to this little trout. So, it's haunting. I mean, I've just been doing a lot of laundry, and I've been hearing this song over and over again in my mind's ear. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about it. I think it's fun to learn those kinds of things. So, and fish has a lot to do with what we're talking about tonight. Well, not a lot, but we're going to be talking about how I'm reading what I wrote to encourage folks to join me tonight. How do I know if something is acute or chronic, an acute illness or a chronic illness? Sometimes it's super easy, and other times it's confounding, and I'm going to explain a little bit about it. Because if we know what it is, we don't always have to know, but if we do happen to know whether it's an acute or a chronic, and it's pretty clear to us, it gives us some parameters as to what to expect with the medicines once we take them. So I'll go back to what I discussed last week, and that was my eyes. It was actually mostly this eye. And the reason I was thinking about a fish is because after we met last week, and I told you that I took Apis, it was really good that night. And the next day was good by taking Apis. But the next day, which was, what that would have been Wednesday, it blew up like a puffer fish that was pregnant with quintuplets after eating a highly inflammatory meal. I mean, my eye was so huge and swollen that the lids inverted. So they were turned inside out. So I was looking at the inside. Oh, yes, it was disgusting. And the itching was absolutely maddening. I thought I was going to lose my mind. And I thought I could actually do damage because I was scratching so much. And if anyone's ever had skin irritation, eczema, or anything like that, you know how when people say, "Oh, don't scratch," and you go, "Oh, yeah, right." That's like when women give birth in the hospital, the doctor says, "Don't push." Oh, okay. I won't push. Are you kidding me? So it's so compelling that you have no choice. So I was on the warpath this week. I had to figure out what this was. Was it conjunctivitis? Was it blepharitis? Was it eczema? Was it an allergic reaction? I'd been swimming every day for weeks in a chlorinated pool. It was outside and there wasn't a lot of chlorine, but who knows? Maybe it was that. I bought this new, not this lipstick, but I bought this new lipstick when my husband and I were in Toronto a few weeks back. Was it the lipstick I was wearing? Was it the living in South Florida and I wasn't accustomed to the spraying in South Florida? I didn't know what it was. But interestingly, the beauty of homeopathy is, yes, it's valuable to know what the etiology is to a certain degree. And what I mean by that is, if I'd known that it was swimming in the chlorinated pool, and I swim 45 minutes every day, or was doing that, and if I knew that that was it, that would at least allow me to be prudent and allow myself a little break, and so that I can, while I'm figuring out what homeopathic medicine it is. The medicine is somewhat related to the etiology, but more really what it's related to is, what is the diagnosis and how is it presenting? So now I don't know if you can see it, and I'm still itchy. My nose is still itchy. My face is still itchy, but it's now I look like an octogenarian pachyderm that's been in the desert. After rolling in the mud, and about 10 days later, it's still in the desert, hasn't found water to clean off its skin. It's all checked and cracked. It's kind of like the farmhouse look. You know what I mean? The furniture that's supposed to be chipped and beat up. And this eye's not so great either, but this one's really bad. Oh my gosh. So anyway. But it looks better and it feels better, and I'll tell you why, and I'll explain further what happened, what I did. So I decided to look at it differently, and it really brought me to acutes and chronics. When I was a baby, 6 weeks old, I broke out in eczema, and I had it from 6 weeks old till I was about 13. And around 12 or 13 years old, my parents took my brother and me to Florida. We took a drive down to Florida. My father just gotten this new car, and it was a convertible, and it was very exciting. He just picked it up a few days earlier. We got in the car and we drove, and it was supposed to be the most exciting thing because we'd never done anything like that before. And the whole trip down, I was soporific. I guess that's the best way to describe it. I was practically comatose. I could not stay awake. And when we finally got to Florida, my eyes got swollen, not unlike this, itchy, swollen, eczematous. They were, it just looked like I had tumors in my eyes. It was pretty bad looking. And it wasn't until many years later that we kind of realized that it was likely the new car, because then years later, if I got into a new car, I would react in other ways. Later on in life, I reacted with asthma and certainly fatigue. But that was the only time that ever happened. So that was 1965. This is 2019. Could it be the same thing? Yes, folks, it could be the same thing. And I don't know that it's necessary that we absolutely know this, but when we suppress symptoms, and my symptoms were suppressed for many years with steroids and all kinds of drugs. Not that particular trip. We just let it go, because when we got out of the car and I hung out in the ocean, it kind of all went away, which was great. So we didn't give it another thought. But what can happen is, here's the acute, and it can sit on top of the chronic. So like this is, for example, a log, and here's a bump on the log. And every once in a while, an acute can present that looks like it's not at all connected, but it is connected, because underneath is the chronic condition. And so for me, the chronic condition has been allergies my entire life. I've gotten rid of them, I would say 99% of them, in the last many years because of homeopathy. I no longer have food intolerances, no longer have asthma, no longer have chronic fatigue, no more indigestion, no more chemical sensitivities, etc. Except now, and I don't know if anything specifically caused that, but suddenly it blossomed. But then again, it's not all that sudden, because I've said this before, what's left of my allergies is that my eyes water sometimes, and they itch a little, and they water, and they itch a little bit. Not a big deal. I've always said it's what's left. I'd rather have that any day, I've often said, than having that awful asthma and the chemical sensitivities and chronic fatigue. So I was, I'm pretty happy with the way my health was going. So I think perhaps there was a trigger, perhaps there was an etiology that may have brought this forth, but I think this is the old stuff. And I think that what I'm looking at here is allergic blepharitis, or that morphed perhaps into a species of eczema around my eyes, because it's also dark up in here too. So yeah, don't you agree? Or you're saying yes? I think this is what's going on. So I look at it a little differently. Last week I was thinking of it as an acute blepharitis. An acute blepharitis is the itis of the inflammation of the lids of the eyes. Or conjunctivitis, which is the itis, inflammation of the conjunctiva, which is the inside of the lid. And so that's what I thought it was. But then when as it progressed, I realized this is no. This is old allergy stuff, because concomitantly, I started to get itchy everywhere. Inside my ears, my scalp, my nose, my face. And I broke out in a little bit of eczema on my arm. So then it made it clear, no, this is an allergic response of some sort, something coming back. Now, for those who know anything about homeopathy, I think this is so fascinating, but we don't always see this. We often see, or sometimes see, that old symptoms return, particularly as we're improving in health. Now, that's the very positive way of looking at it. But in Herring, Dr. Herring came up with what is called Herrings Law, or laws of cure. Now, I would call it not necessarily laws of cure, but certainly observations of cure, which are, the first one is that the disease, as it improves, goes from top to bottom. As the person improves and the disease recedes, it goes from top to bottom. So if you had eczema here, for example, if you started getting it behind your knees, and this would go away a bit, and we would see it receding, going down the body. So from top to bottom, or from this area, the most prominent, most important area, where the trunk and the head, where all the organs are held, going outward towards the limbs. That's kind of top to bottom as well. From inside to out. So what used to be a lung problem, asthma, or food intolerances, gut problems, now presenting on the outside of the body, which is the outer organ, the skin. And from present to past. So it's retracing and going back and undoing what was caused and what occurred years earlier. Long time ago. It was a long time ago. But people often think, oh, no, that can't be relevant. It's too long ago. No, it can be relevant. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's what this is. I don't really know. And the only way to truly have knowledge about what's going on, in my case or in anyone's case, in a chronic condition or an acute condition, is in hindsight. When it's over, or when we've seen many, many months of something, or many years, now we can go back and look and say, okay, that makes sense. Now I could put this all together. So if it is an acute problem, we see a natural beginning and a natural end, pretty defined. You're walking down the street, you trip over a dog, you break your leg, and it's broken, and it will fuse at some point. Months later, it will be over with. That is an acute. You're in an airport, someone sneezes on you, and you get the deadly measles. I'm sorry, I'm being a little facetious here. You get a cold, and then you get sick then, and that cold is not going to go on forever. You're not going to have it chronically. It's going to end at some point. Now, in some people, you could end up in pneumonia. you could end up passing away. It doesn't mean that it must end before you die. You could actually die, and that would end the acute. But it will have a natural beginning and a natural end. Another one is bee sting. Bee sting is you're fine, you get stung by a bee, it's only going to last a day or 2 or 5 days, depending on how you treat it. Those are acutes. And with an acute, because it's short-lived, because it's not even intended to last a long time, by using homeopathy, we can see the medicines acting very quickly. We can see it happen. And it's a beautiful thing to behold. Treat a bee sting right after someone's gotten it, and it will bring the pain down and the angst and the swelling and hives or anaphylaxis that might be accompanying it down pretty darned quickly. And we can expect that. Same thing with a broken leg. If someone gets a broken leg, it's not going to fuse it overnight. But if it normally takes 8 weeks for someone to be able to walk again comfortably on that leg, with homeopathy, we often, not always, but we often see it happening in 4 weeks. It fuses faster. The pain goes away sooner. The inflammation is less. The suffering is much less. So we see it move a lot faster, and we can observe that happening. With a chronic, however, it depends, because I will also say that there are chronic conditions that can go away pretty quickly with homeopathy. But for the most part, we don't expect that. What we expect with a chronic condition in treating it with homeopathy is that we see a little improvement, a little more improvement, then we take a step back. Okay, 2 more steps forward, and then maybe 1 step back. 4 steps forward, 3 steps back. So I would love to tell you that improvement using homeopathy for chronic conditions is linear. Every day it's get better, and we build on it. It's not, but it's not like architecture. This is not linear like that. It is the human body, and so there are circuitous ways to get around and move forward. And then we have all kinds of impressions that come in as well. So we often see 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, a half step back. And what we're always looking for a chronic condition is a set period of time. Now, for most chronic conditions, we can see that between 6 and 8 weeks after the influence of the homeopathic medicine for this chronic condition, we can now assess, and we can read the symptoms and read what is occurring at the end of that 6 to 8 weeks. It might be resolved. It might not be resolved, and instead it might just be showing some progression. And that's how we know that we're using the right medicine. So with what I'm using, I expect, because I'm thinking of this as something old that's kind of returned. I don't know if it's going to get better when I go up north, because I'll be going up north in about a month or so. I don't know if that will do it, but certainly meanwhile, the itching has gone down. I'm actually able to sleep. I was not sleeping well because I was waking with tremendous itching. And I used all the medicines that I normally use for waking from sleep with itching. Coffea, for example. Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of my water. All right. A couple of others. Even Ignatia, because I was beside myself. But instead, what I ended up taking was the first one after the Apis debacle. I went to Argentum nitricum. Argentum nitricum. Just the way it sounds. That's what's so great about this. It's Latin. You bet. People know this. Argentum nitricum. I used it in a 200C. I've been using it. I'm taking it twice daily. And Argentum nitricum is very specific for the eyes. Now, as I said, concomitantly, I had other stuff going on. I had eczema on. I've got a little bit patch on my arm that I haven't had. I haven't seen anything like this in really, really since I was a teenager, an adolescent. But I still insisted, because this was the seat of the condition. So Argentum nitricum is an incredible medicine for the eyes on many, many different levels. Twice daily, 200C. Then I added Calcarea carbonicum. Now I thought about using just a 30, but I decided instead I'm going to use a 200C. And I'm taking that. First I was taking it once a day, but then I found, it felt so good after I took it. I decided to take it twice daily. Because the benefits of it, with the calming and the easing of all of what was going on in my eyes, was so much improved. Then I also use, what else do I have here? I have my list. Arsenicum album and antimonium crude, because it was so eczematous. Arsenicum album 6 I used, I believe. Was it a 6? No, excuse me, an antimonium crude 6 and arsenicum 200. Ant crude, A-N-T, crude or antimonium crudum in a 6. And I mixed it with, I put it right in my mouth at the same time as the arsenicum 200. And that really helped the itching. I also believe that helped the cracking, because my eyes were, under my eyes there were fissures, and it was exuding liquid that would then tighten up. And then if I opened my eyes, they would crack open again. I mean, I really looked like, I was hit by a snowplow or something. And was that the last thing I used? Oh, then I also added in Euphrasia. Now, I know, folks, you told me last time, somebody said, oh, use Euphrasia. And somebody else may have sent Argentum nitricum as well, and you were right. I was still stuck on the idea that it was blepharitis or conjunctivitis, and it was so swollen, which is why I went to Apis. So I've been using Euphrasia 30. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 remedies, and arsenicum, antimonium crude mixed together. So I make them as one. The 2 mixed together turns out to be 1. So it's actually 6 remedies, but taken as 5. And I've been taking each one twice daily. Now, what I expect, it's hard to say for sure, but having worked with thousands of clients and students and studying this for 32 years, I expect that this is not going to go away quickly, and that I will go back and forth, but I will still continue making gains. And so what I'm going to be doing is pulling back and looking to see what kind of a net gain I have. So think of it like that. Imagine you're at an art gallery and you're looking at an impressionistic painting for the first time. If you get too close to it and observe too closely, all you'll see are brush strokes of orange and yellow and red. But if you are taught and trained to step back and see what the artist intended to project, now you can see that these are flowers and a person and a house. And that's how we have to look at, when we're looking at a chronic, how we have to observe, not day to day. Oh no, I'm worse than I was yesterday. But if you see 5 worse days than yesterday, then you know you're off to the wrong remedy. If you see 1 bad day after a couple of good days, then hold off, be patient. You might be surprised. It might come around readily. Now, the reason I knew that Apis was not right, it was not about waiting and allowing the medicine to act more fully, because I don't follow classical homeopathy that says, oh, there could be an aggravation. No, I don't believe that if you're going to repeat these medicines, you should have no aggravation at all. Or if you do, it should be very tiny. But after a day and a half of taking Apis, my eyes blew up. That is not an aggravation, folks. That is a continuation or a proving of the medicine, or a continuation of the condition that's now growing larger and more looming. So that's how we know to stop. I stopped it. I actually took camphora or camphor 200, 1 dose, to give myself a breather. And I also took some mint, essential oil of mint, put it in my water. I sniffed it just to make sure that it came down. And I did feel better after I did that. So that can be very, very comforting. And that's when I decided, meanwhile, I should also tell you, I went to Graphites. I took Graphites, looks like graphites, but it's pronounced Graphites. I use that in a 200C because of the fissures and the cracking and the the oozing of fluids. It did look like Graphites to me at one point. I thought about sulfur, but I had used sulfur, I don't know, about 6 months ago for some generalized itching without any eruptions. And it was not, it felt very uncomfortable. So I stopped. However, I keep hoping that someday I'm going to be able to go to sulfur, because I do believe that sulfur is way, 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 way behind all of this from when I was a little girl. My family is originally from Sicily, and both sides, my grandparents on both sides, all my aunts and uncles on both sides pretty much were born in Sicily. My parents were the youngest of both families, so they were born in the U.S. But Sicily was known for a couple hundred years, I believe, or maybe 100 years, for its sulfur mines. And so I believe that those who are of Sicilian background can often be touched more deeply from sulfur, and particularly if someone in the family worked in those mines. My grandfather owned a sulfur mine in Sicily at one time, and so he worked it as well. And I know that he had skin conditions, so it's likely. I mean, I'm kind of grasping at hairs, and it doesn't mean that this is very scientific. It's really more just kind of putting it all together through the years, that at some point sulfur is going to do some real good work for me because it's so connected to my family. I'm going to look at their, oh, hi, Alberta, Canada. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you very much. Yes, this is a special day for Americans. Hi from Ohio. Vivian Lanfranco. Yes, yes, also Italian. Any Italian songs? No, but I do know some Italian songs. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but next time I'll see if I can come up with something. All righty, let's see. I'm going to go down further to the bottom and see if, hi, St. Louis. Happy Memorial Day to you too. I used sulfur successfully with my daughter's eye allergy when APIS failed. Yes, I wouldn't be surprised. And you know, it's interesting because Dr. Samuel Hahnemann opened all of his cases. He, you know, of course, he was working in the late 1700s, early 1800s with sulfur. He opened, before he even took the case, he started with sulfur. I believe it was a 200X. I might be wrong about that, but he opened all cases with sulfur. Now today I open after having worked with the Banerjees. I open up all my chronic cases with camphor. Comes under stress, even if they don't realize it. This is when the extended care from my experience calls for Ignatia for a while. Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Dawn. Absolutely. I want to get some of these questions in here. I'd love to know what people have used for eye allergies. Thank you. This is how everyone learns. So sulfur was a Euphrasia. Yep, Natalie's saying this. Thank you. Hi, Natalie. My brother-in-law came over for dinner this afternoon, cured his acute allergy attack with a few doses of Sabadil. Beautiful. It's a beautiful combination medicine from boron. Yeah, it is a win. There's no doubt about it. That's how. And I always tell folks, when you take care of someone in your family, don't say, before you give them the medicine, don't say, ooh, I know the medicine. Just wait, I know exactly what to give you. And you give it to them and then nothing happens. Because we all make mistakes and you don't want to do that. So instead you say, you know, I got this. If you're interested, you're welcome to it. What is it? They always say. Well, you see, there are these little white pills. Well, what is it? Well, and then you explain, well, it's made from a plant, you know, Euphrasia, it's made from a plant, or calcarb, it's made from the inside of an oyster shell. You know, you can explain a little bit, but don't go too deep because their eyes will gloss over. And you don't want to do that. You just want to help them if you can. All right. Argentum nitricum, you bet. Oh, someone from Brazil. Marilia. Nice to meet you, Marilia. Very nice. I've been using histamine more often for allergy and itchiness. I didn't think about doing APIS. I had also used histamine a few times for this as well. But it wasn't really working for me. And so I add Ledum, plaster to those two minimum. Okay. For allergy, what works for me is histamine plus APIS or just histamine. You bet. Yep. Those are all good. Yep. Happy to be here. Yes. Hi, Cheryl. Martha, hello from Cincinnati, Ohio. Could it be that you are under stress with taking care of your mom? Well, actually, believe it or not, I'm not under stress taking care of my mother. She's super easy. I know that sounds crazy, but, you know, we get her up in the morning. My husband's right there. He's helping me. We get her, you know, we take her into the bathroom. I get her dressed. I wash her down. We pick her up. We put her in the wheelchair. We've actually got an elevator which is why we bought this little house, is because it had an elevator in it for someone who had knee problems. I said, oh my gosh, when we saw it, this is perfect for us. We put her in the elevator and scoop her up to the second floor where the living room and kitchen are located. I give her breakfast. I put her out on the terrace. When I'm working, she sits right here in my office unless she's loquacious. When she talks too much and too loudly, then I have to move her out. But often she'll just sit with me and just murmur, listen to me, or sometimes fall asleep. She's really not a lot of work. She really isn't. I love feeding her because she's so grateful for everything I make. She loves what I make. And I used to take that as a compliment. Now, you know, my mother has late stage Alzheimer's, folks. Okay, so you understand this. She used to say, what she often says, and she doesn't have much language, but she does have, you know, some communication skills. But then one day I saw her eat the napkin and go, and I said, oh, jeepers, I thought it was me. I thought it was my cooking. Now, I think it's just a texture or something. No, Mom, don't eat that. Don't do that. Here, eat this yogurt instead. All righty. I add leadum. Yep. Pilastra to those two. Oh, yeah, that's the histamine. Happy to be here. Let's see if we have any other questions. I'd love to be able to answer some. Can you say more about the one that's good for eyes? What kind of eye issues? You name it. Argentum nitricum for not for necessarily infections of the eyes. It's more inflammation of the eyes. Not for cataracts. So now I'm already excluding a couple of, I've used it for glaucoma. I've used it for poor eyesight, especially in people who shouldn't have poor eyesight, like children. What else have I used it for? Help me think of some ophthalmological conditions. Glaucoma, not even torn retina, detached retina. I don't use it for that. I don't know why I can't lacrimation, excessive lacrimation, dry eyes. I can see that that helps as well. Don't eat that napkin. It's true, Dina. Yes, thank you for the compliment about my dress. Okay, I think we have got it. So, folks, I'm going to we'll meet again next week, as we always do. It's so much fun. I'm going to turn you on to someone that I've been watching. I've been watching him for a long time and listening to him. If you don't know about Dennis Prager and Prager University, you might just be turned on to this man. I've been listening to him this afternoon because I've had more time. While I've been taking care of my household and my duties, I listen to his YouTubes, his fireside chats. That's Dennis Prager at Prager University. He has an online little vignettes. So if you're so inclined to all kinds of subjects, people think of it as political. Sometimes it is political, sometimes it isn't. I think it's a lot of wisdom. Yes, some people here know about him. Yes, hearts, absolutely. Love that Dennis Prager. Someday I'd love to meet him. So I'm going to say what I believe I heard him say. I think it was today. Go out and do good. That's our job. Go out and do good. Cure people, cure animals, help others, do what's right, and do good work. It pays off in the end in so many ways. So with that, I'm going to bid you an end to a lovely Memorial Day weekend, and mwah to all of you, and God bless. Bye now.